Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2014 Czech comedy film Snowboardjáci, which is also known as Snowboarders when it comes to its English translation. Now, going into this, I really was not expecting a whole lot from this movie because I'm not really that familiar with Czech films. And on top of that, I'm not really super big on teen snowboarding comedies, but this was actually kind of a fun watch, at least for one time. Like, I don't think it's something that I would probably watch again anytime soon, but for a one time watch, it was actually fairly entertaining. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, I want to give a special shout out to Radic for yet again requesting another review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I'll try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Snowboardjáci is directed by Karel Janák, and I felt the direction was not too bad. I don't think it was great or amazing, but for a low budget teen comedy, it was surprisingly above average. There's some decent camera work in this. It definitely has a nice sense of style to it. And when it comes to the snowboarding sequences, the various other dream sequences that the two leads have as well throughout the movie. There's some, pratfalls and comedy stuff, but the direction seems to capture the manic energy of those scenes decently enough. The framing is okay. There are some pans and zooms, but not a ton of that. So it's not really something that's really that unique or that daring when it comes to the camera work. It's pretty simple. There are some moments in it though that I think definitely do stand out, especially the scene early on when the teens are playing a snowboarding video game, and the way that the game footage was shot, and the way that they shot the kids on the snowboards, and it was actually really well shot and real well directed. It did a good job at really putting you in their shoes when they're playing the game. So, I mean, for the kind of movie that this is, the direction I definitely feel was pretty solid, and easily I would probably say one of the best things about it. Now, the film was also written by Janák, and this is. I'm not going to say this is a bad screenplay, but it's definitely one of those scripts that I think could have been better than it ultimately was. It does a decent enough job in terms of letting you get to know the two main characters, Randy and Yakim, who are these two friends who are into snowboarding, but they are very delusional in terms of their actual skills. They think snowboarding is cool, but they are completely clueless when it comes to how to snowboard. But they run into these snow bunnies when they're staying over at this cabin to help out a relative of theirs on the mountains. And they lie to these snow bunnies, these three girls, that they're actually really skilled snowboarders. So they just continue to try to keep up the facade throughout the film until eventually the truth is revealed. There was also some other stuff with like some occasional dream sequences that they have involving snowboarding or other teenage boy kind of stuff. They have an older sister, or at least one of them has an older sister. I think her name is Marta, and she is just a total bitch to her brother and punishing him and his friend, making up things to tell her parents about her brother and his friend doing drugs or doing this other stuff so she can just get away with essentially screwing them over and not doing anything during this trip. But eventually she does get her comeuppance. There's this other rival group of snowboarders as well who are more experienced, and they are swooping in and trying to take the snow bunnies away from the two teens. This is also taking place around Christmas time and New Year's. So it's a bit of a Christmas movie and a New Year's movie. There are some moments where you get to know Randy and Yakum's parents and their whole family dynamic, which definitely does help when it comes to getting to know these characters better. And there's just a lot of animosity between Randy and Yakum and this guy who runs the I think his name is Milan. This guy who runs the cabin, who's like the relative, and the two teens, they do various different things to essentially um, give him some comeuppance for his actions. They go in and set him up or mess up his car, stuff like that. And the film is kind of building up to these two teens learning how to snowboard and maybe being a part of this snowboarding competition, but they eventually do learn how to snowboard and can do it adequately enough, but they're still not skilled enough to do the race. So they just chicken out or just stop before it even gets going. And they eventually, though, wind up going along with the snow bunnies and this other snowboarding team to a really high place up in the mountains, and then wind up getting stranded up there, get hurt, and then they wind up getting taken back down the mountain. One of them, I think he has a broken arm. Another one is just kind of banged up. I think maybe he has some, I don't, a minor neck injury or something. No, he has a concussion. And they decide, because it's the last night that they're going to have being there, they want to try to get with the girls. And initially it seems like, oh, they're not going to be able to get with them because the snowboarder team shows up and starts giving them crap and beating them up. And then they take them out with some. Actually, the snowboarding team tries to take out the teens with some fireworks, but then it backfires on the snowboarding team. And then the two teens, Randy and Yakum, they go and spend time with the three girls, and it's insinuated that the three girls make love to them. And the way that it's shot, it's kind of uncomfortable to watch, and the way that it's presented, because these are clearly young teenage boys, and the way that it's shot is something that you would see out of like an adult movie. So it is kind of an uncomfortable scene to sit through because of the young age of the characters. And the two teens, they're likable enough, but there are some moments where they're kind of creeps. I mean, they tried to put a baby monitor in the girls' room so they could spy on them, which is pretty creepy. Uh, but eventually they get the girls in the end. So you think, because there's this weird ending where they wind up in a plane and jump out of it in their snowboards, but the way that it's set up and the way that the dialogue is, it's exactly like some of the dream scenes that they had earlier in the movie. So it's one of those things where you're like, okay, this might not have even actually happened. It kind of sounds like all of this was just a dream. They never got with the snow bunnies. They never really learned how to snowboard that well. They were just dreaming this whole thing. They didn't even go to the mountains. It's just all a dream. If that isn't the intent, I just don't buy them getting good enough to be able to jump out of a plane and snowboard on a mountain, considering the fact that they couldn't even finish the race earlier in the movie prior to the ending. So that's what I mean. It's not the best script out there because I think there's too much involving the teens that kind of makes them look like dicks, and they could have like cut that out. The baby monitor scene isn't even necessary, and it just makes them look like a bunch of creeps. The ending where it seems like it was all a dream is more confusing than anything else. And I mean, it's a movie. Why couldn't they have learned how to snowboard enough, or they were able to train with somebody prior to the race, and they actually were a part of the race? Because there's like a long extended scene of this snowboard race at one point in the movie, and there's no reason to care about it because your two leads aren't even a part of it. But it's not the worst script out there. I did have some enjoyment when it comes to the story. I did like the two teens. They had some fun banter and fun dialogue back and forth at points. There were moments where I did root for them, especially when it comes to one-upping or managing to provide comeuppance for the sister and the guy who's running the cabin and the snowboarding team, who are just a bunch of jerks. And in some ways, even though they were trying to spy on the girls, you still kind of wish that they could maybe get with them, because yeah, they did that really shady thing, but it's also the kind of thing that a lot of teenage boys kind of do. So it's not necessarily the equivalent of them like bringing a video camera in there and trying to record the girls while they're, undressing or anything. And apparently this was like a massive hit when it came out, because this particular story and this approach to telling a story involving teenagers and snowboarders, that wasn't something that Czech audiences had really seen before. So this was actually pretty fresh and new, even though in the 2000s this was honestly kind of stale at this point in other parts of the world. The cast of Snowboardyaci, I actually think is pretty good. I liked Wojciech Kotek and Jiří Mádl, who played Randy and Jakob. Uh, they had a good amount of charm to them. I felt they had some charisma. I definitely felt that they had some genuine chemistry. I bought that they were two best friends, and they really were a big part of why I found the film to be at least somewhat entertaining. The rest of the cast, I mean, Ester Geislerová as Marta. She played a role well when it comes to being the bitchy older sister. Barbora Seidlová and Lucie Vondráčkova and Martina Klírová as Teresa, Clara, and Lucy, the three snow bunnies. They were charming in their own right, and it definitely looked like, at least from what I saw, that they knew how to snowboard, or they did a good job making it look like they knew what they were doing. You also had some other cast members too, like Jiří Langmajer, who played Milan, the guy who's owner of the cabin, who's a dick. Um, I said this other lady called Gabina, who is like a hooker who just hangs out around the cabin, and there's a lot of like awkward scenes involving her like eating all of these dishes that the boys are gonna give the girls with Spanish fly in it, which that's another thing. I honestly almost forgot that. That's what I mean. The boys are kind of they're engaging enough as characters. They have some good chemistry. They're a fun duo, but they do some shady things. Do the thing with the baby monitor, then try to essentially drug the girls with Spanish Fly. And it was just definitely weird to see a prostitute, an older woman, try to hit on these young boys. And it was just weird. But the performance by the actress wasn't the problem. It wasn't bad. And honestly, overall, it just wasn't a bad cast at all. Some pretty decent performances by all the cast members in this. The cinematography by Martin Sasha, it's not spectacular, but serviceable. Same thing goes for the editing by Adam Dvorak. The music by Miroslav Chaiska, it's like a little bit of like instrumental synth music that definitely fit the vibe of the movie, and I didn't mind it. There were some other songs that they had for the soundtrack. Some of them were actually in English, and some of them are actually not that bad. They're not anything I would consider to be a new favorite, but there was some decent like rock or a metal or pop tracks that they used for the soundtrack that had a few catchy hooks or beats now and then. And it was at a pretty decent pace too. It's like 99 minutes. That's with the end credits. Without the end credits, it's even shorter. So it wasn't that long of a movie. Went by at a decent enough pace. Yeah, I mean, it's not a favorite of mine by any means, but it's definitely a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And it was fun. It was fun to, get a taste of, Czech cinema, you know, experience and check out something that is different than the norm, so to speak, when it comes to a lot of the movies that I do normally review for this channel. So, if a teen snowboarding comedy uh, sounds like it might be up your alley, maybe give this a watch sometime. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Snowboardyachi. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.